It's going to be a one-part race, but unfortunately it ended up in a two-part race thanks to our friends at Eskom. But we beat them thanks to Luke Lokezi and Peter van der Spey and the guys that made it possible for us to have a full backup system. So we're back with you again. It's 15 laps into this race, 20 of the 40 minutes. I can see a couple of pit stops has actually happened. Stephen McCarthy is there in the pit lane. In fact, Ian Riddle is there in the pit lane as well as Eugene Manouk. You can see he goes up onto the jacks. So it's Francois Joubert that's leading out at this stage of the fight. But seeing that we've missed a short piece, let's have a look at the pit stops. Well, Stephen McCarthy is the main man that's done the pit stops, but Francois Joubert is into the pits, Luc Lucchesi is into the pits, Jan Spammers is into the pits, Johan Verree is also in the pits as well, and Peter Joubert decides, well, I'm in the top 5, if they go, I go as well, and into the pits they go. So Jan Spammers is the leading man there. They start coming out of the pits now. It's Francois Joubert is the first one, then it's Luc Lucchesi, then it's Jan Spammers, then it's Johan Verree. Remember, Frankie, they had 40% of fuel load in these motor cars, but now Robbie Teens decides he's going to go in. Gerald Maget into the pits, as well as Timothy Stanton. Schweiss Joubert just outside of the top 6. He finds himself a long way out, make no mistake, but he manages to get out just outside of the top 5. So there you can see all the top guys have been in. Peter van der Spey is one of very few that haven't been into the pits. He finds himself a little bit further back, but now remember, if we put that track map up for you, you'll see where Peter van der Spey is. That's the 11 with the green around it. He finds himself in 11th position, and he will be coming around towards the pit entry. So I'm pretty sure being just outside of the top 10. Peter van der Spey doesn't really have a choice at this stage of the fight. He's probably, with that 40% fuel load, going to have to now peel off into the pits. Let's see, does he make an idiot out of the commentary team? No, he says, okay guys, just to make you look good, I'll go back into the pits. Well, with that, Frankie, Francois Joubert leading out, but look at Luc Lucchesi, 0.7 of a second, having done that pit stop already, finds himself ahead of Johan Spammers. Johan Verree, that was in that very competitive 5th place, ahead of Peter Joubert.
Yeah, that's a fight for P1 and P2, and we'll put the battle box on now. Somebody came out of that right-hander out of Goddard's all over the place. I think it might have been
it's Leonardo Bakari.
Bakari, yes. We'll have a look-see as they go into that left-hander. Somebody was all out of shape in the Logitech car. It was Bakari.
Too many grass, not enough tar.
Got himself in a bit of a knot there. And that is a replay ID. But the fight is on, basically. Well, this is the gap between first all the way down to last. We'll get the intervals up for you now. Remember, we had a bit of a problem with the load shedding, so we're all back again. And that's the only real fight up there at this point in time. 7/10 of a second between Francois Joubert and Luc Lucchesi. That is sitting up there in first and second positions. And then we've got huge gaps after that. Jan Spammers is 4.8 seconds behind Lucchesi, finding himself in a very lonely 3rd position. Nearly 7 seconds behind him in the lonely P4 is Peter Joubert. And then 9 seconds behind him in P5 is Schweiss Joubert, and he's quite some distance behind Peter, and then 11.1 seconds behind Schweiss Joubert is Robbie Teens. Now, the computer says that Johan Verree is in the pit area. Remember, he did come to box with all that top 5 just before the load shedding caught us out. So I'm not quite sure. Yes, Johan is in the pits. And this is not a routine pit stop for Verree.
And Leonardo.
Clearly some problem out there for Johan Verree, and here comes Peter van der Spey.
But he
once again back into the pits.
He was in already, and now he comes back in the pits. Maybe something to do, Frankie, with the settings that the guys didn't get enough fuel when they came in the first time. That could turn everything upside down. So Peter van der Spey on the exit of the pits as he works his way out. So Francois Joubert leading them out and doing a lovely job as always. Luc Lucchesi, one of the quickest out there, one of the guys that can take on the young guns all day, every day. Jan Spammers right in the game. There he comes. There's Jan Spammers. 5.5 seconds behind Luke Lucchese, and pretty much in the same camera shot, there is Pierre Hubert. Just behind him is, in fact, Suisse Hubert as he comes into that left-right complex. And then not that far behind him is the Bolt man, Robbie Teens.
Well, Luke Lucchese needs a good one, because last weekend, or should I say last Wednesday, he got a P18 and it did not finish, when Johan Fourie got a P2 and a P4, and Willem Botha got a P1 and a P1. So Lucchese is going to have to get a move on with this one. Johan Fourie is back out again. He's all the way down in that 12th position, as we have a look at Timothy Stanton working his way around in that number 69 car, sitting in P7. Then the 41 in P8 is the Frenchman Gerald Mauger. He's 4.5 seconds behind Timothy Stanton. That's just out there ahead of him in P7. Then in 9th position, 13.2 seconds behind Gerald Mauger, is Stephen McCarthy, and 26 seconds behind McCarthy, rounding off the top 10, is the Red Bull car number 1 of Ian Riddle.
Yep, he rounds out the top 10. Then Willem Botha, the next man out there, 14 seconds further back. Well, Frankie, in the pre-race briefing and the chats that the guys had, they said, look, just keep it calm for the first couple of laps. It's going to be a pretty high attrition rate. Let's keep it all right. Johan Fourie must have had massive damage on his car that he's only got back out on track now. Finds himself in 12th position. 26 minutes of the 40 minutes done. Let's have a look at the last lap times that have actually been put out. Will give us an indication of where he is at. Well, having come out of the pits, Johan Fourie having done a 1 minute 38.3. So that's a very slow lap that has been done there, in fact, by Johan Fourie. We'll have to see what he does on the next lap thereafter to see, is his car in a position where he can actually make up positions at this stage of the fight. Talking about making up positions, I think Luke Lucchese is expecting to do one pretty soon.
Well, remember, the two drivers you see out there in P1 and P2 have all been drivers that have won at least one season of the iRacing Master Series. Pieter has won a season. He won the second season. And Luke Lucchese has also won. I think he won the second last one. Remember, we had one just before the end of the year. And the man that's sitting all the way down in 11th position has won 2 of them, namely Johan Fourie. But the only real fight out there on the circuit is this one for the lead between Francois Hubert and Luke Lucchese, 7/10 of a second separating the two of them as they make their way around, going down the through Hollywood and the Crano curves into the old hairpin, then over Starkey's Bridge and into Swan's Curve they go, working their way towards McLean's.
Ooh, look at
Still
that
heading
one.
towards McLean's, the two of them.
Sorry, Frankie. Remember we spoke about Johan Fourie had a 1 minute 38 because he was in the pits, and we said we'll have to wait a little bit to see exactly what the options are for Johan Fourie. What is his latest lap time? Well, he's 10.4 behind Ian Riddle, kicking up the dust as he climbs over the curbstones up into 11th position. A 1 minute 22 and 5.5 seconds quicker than Ian Riddle. So that extra time that he was actually in the pits, he must have been doing a full rebuild, fix up, tape up, glue up, and make sure the car's 100% correct, because Johan Fourie on a 122.003 is faster than everybody out there, in apart from the top 4 being Pieter Hubert, Jan Spomers, Luke Lucchese and Francois Hubert. Now, if you remember earlier on, he was in fact lying in 5th position, and that was the 4 that's in front of him. Now that the car is sorted out, you'll see the number 11 that's working its way around the circuit. That's the black 11 with a green dot on your track map that's going through the last corner. He just did a 122.003, is about to go across the line. Can you go any quicker? 122.182. So that's pretty much where he is. That's still 3.5 seconds quicker than Ian Riddle. 2 laps from now, Johan Fourie, barring unforeseen circumstances, will break into the top 10.
No, that's not a very happy Formula 3 Dallara that Johan is driving around. I'm not too sure exactly what happened. Whatever happened to Johan must have happened that moment that the load shedding kicked us off, because we don't seem to pick it up at all. Behind Johan Fourie in P12 is this man, Willem Botha. I remember, as I said last week, 2 races of 20 minutes and Botha got 2 wins. And he finds himself now in 12th position. This is a replay of Fourie and Timothy Stanton, and this is what happened to Fourie. He got tangled with Stanton, and
he got tangled again.
Leonardo Bakari and Peter van der Spey.
Oh, well, the left-hand back wheel was... you're not supposed to steer with the left-hand back wheel, and that definitely doesn't work, and he jumped to the pits. So that started off Leonardo Bakari was also now involved with that one. He comes along, everything's going lovely for Leonardo Bakari. The street opens up in front of him, and all of a sudden everything closes up, whacks that left-hand front wheel off. So how did Peter van der Spey get involved in that? Peter van der Spey was on his line, took his line, didn't see Johan come up the inside. He ended up turning it around, it picks up a bit of traction and whacks into the back and takes that wheel off of Johan Fourie. So upgraded version of SDK, that's how you find those items. Going back to the front of the field, it's all again, once again, about Francois Joubert.
Yeah, the man from AlphaTauri sits out there in P1 as he goes through the Fogarty S's, working his way down the back straight there, sitting in P1. Luke Lucchesi, 2.8 seconds now behind him in that 3rd position. Then 4.6 seconds behind him in P3 is Jan Sparmers, working his way through the Melbourne hairpin, heading towards that same hairpin now as a 777, the Repsol and Benson and Hedges outfit of Peter Joubert in P4. He's 17.6 seconds behind Swiss Joubert in that Valvoline outfit, number 11. Swiss sitting out there in P5, nearly 18 seconds behind Peter. As a matter of fact, all 3, the Joubert family members, find themselves in the top 5.
Yep, and then we've got Robbie Teams, not that far behind Robbie Teams. There he comes, Timothy Stanton. And not that far behind Timothy Stanton, 6 seconds further back. There, we'll pick him up right there. That is Gerald Maget. And then there's 12 seconds from Gerald Maget back to the man that's following him. But that's quite a long way back. That's the next man coming through. That's Stephen McCarthy. And Willem Botha's into the pits, while Ian Riddle is starting to close onto the back of Johan Fourie. But I think it's Johan Fourie that just passed Ian Riddle to move up a position. There we go. There you see Johan Fourie up on the inside. Ian Riddle says, well, we understand that you're pretty quick. We'll let you go through there. And Johan Fourie makes up that position. So, Frankie, Johan Fourie, when we first spoke about him, he was down in 12th position. Let's have a look at the last lap times that they just did. And Johan Fourie on a 121.7, a 123 by Steve McCarthy. But the gap, I can't see him making it up. There's only 7 minutes to go. If Stephen McCarthy does not make a mistake, 35 seconds, even if your name is Johan Fourie, you're not going to be able to make that up.
No, there's no ways he's going to make that up unless Stephen McCarthy does something silly out there. Otherwise, Fourie is going to probably end there in P10. Timothy Stanton sitting there in that 7th position, nearly 3 seconds behind Robbie Teams, busy working his way out of the Melbourne hairpin, and now making his way to the left-hand hairpin, that is Goddard's. Out of Goddard's he comes down the Wheatcroft Straight, that's the main straight, heading into turn 1, that is Redgate, sitting up there in that 7th position.
Raymond Duggan had a bit of an incident. Let's just see what happened with Raymond Duggan. United Colours of a Benetton. Oh, beautiful.
No,
colour.
that's the Renault.
Oh, sorry, that's the Renault.
Old Renault.
The
colours,
old Mile
yeah.
7. Yep, and that's the last turn before you come out onto the front main. Remember, it was a standing start on the front main. Raymond Duggan getting that one back on track and sorting that one out. So I think Johan Fourie's passed as many cars as what he's probably going to be able to. Who's the biggest gainers and losers? Luke Lucchesi up into 2nd position. and he's made up 12 places. The second highest gainer being that man there, that's Pity Hubert, up 8 positions in total, and then Swiss Hubert up 6 positions, and then also up 6 positions is Johan Ferry. But Frankie, I think with Eskom throwing us off and pulling us back, that calculation is done by STK based on where they were at that point in the race, not based from the initial, because in fact there is no ways that Johan Ferry is in 10th position and is made up only 6 places from 16th. He in fact started on the front 6 on the grid. So with Eskom trying to mess us around, but thanks to Luke Lekezi and a couple of other people that has made sure that we stay live, we are back out there with you. Lap 26, 35.5 minutes done of the 40-minute race. What can we say about Francois Hubert? Yet another brilliant race by him.
Yeah, Francois Hubert, as Peter van der Spy once again makes his way into the pit area. He's not having a good outing there, is van der Spy. So the AlphaTauri man for Just Race, Francois Hubert, in the 304 car, sits out there in P1, nearly 2.5 seconds ahead of Luke Lekezi. That is in that second position. This whole race has blown itself apart. There are massive gaps between all of them, with Lekezi 2.4 seconds behind Francois Hubert, with Jan Sparmers rounding off the top 3, and he's nearly 7 seconds behind Lekezi.
Brilliant race to date from Timothy Stanton in his favourite colours, with the Roland Manifolds sign writing on the car, honouring his dad, and it's fantastic to see that. Well, he recovered from that one pretty quickly, I must say. Leonardo Bakari had a little bit of an off as well, and let's see what we can pick up, and let's see if we can get that one sorted out for him, as well as Leonardo Bakari has yet another incident, and we'll see what we can do to make sure that all goes well between here and the end of the race, that Eskom doesn't get it right to mess us around any further.
Right, so we are approaching checkered flag. We still got a few more minutes left in this one, as we have a look at Jan Sparmer, 7 seconds behind Luke Lekezi. There's really no intervals between these guys. There are huge gaps. Peter Hubert nearly 13 seconds behind Jan Sparmers, finding himself in that 4th position in the 777 car. Benson and Hedges and Repsol. Then the Valvoline outfit of Swiss Hubert finding himself in P5. I just saw the errors there pop up for a short while. I'll have a look and see how many errors the guys made. Not too many. I think Raymond Duggan made 8, Willem Botha, Peter van der Spy, Leonardo Bakari made 6, and that's about it. It shows that Stephen McCarthy made none, and 1 for Robertines Gerald Maget. So not too bad for the guys out there.
Yeah, Gerald Maget making up that position there on Timothy Stanton. That was when Timothy Stanton in fact went off track. That's why he made up that one. So 1.5 minutes to go for Francois Hubert, leading out there from Luke Lekezi. Luke is closing, but I think too little, too late. There, in fact, is Luke Lekezi and Jan Sparmers. Frankie, we haven't actually spoken that much about Jan Sparmers. He is definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in the GT3 MSA IRSA 2023 series, which will be starting the 2nd week of February.
Well, last week I shared driver of the day with 2 drivers, and Jan Sparmers was one of them, and certainly he's my nominee so far for this one, so it could be 2 in a row for Jan Sparmers. So I fully agree with you there, Gaza. Definitely a man to watch out for 2023.
Well, the first set of 25 nominees and applications that have been accepted, that went into the 5 different sessions that was available last night. 5 cars per session, 5 different sessions that was opened up. And well, those guys, we will start picking up those times as they get into tomorrow night, and then on Tuesday night as well. It looks like the white flag that has come out there, and we're on the last lap. So literally by 8 seconds, Francois Joubert gets himself into a situation where he's got to do one more lap. But that's actually becoming a bit of a problem, because already down to 1.8 seconds is that man behind him. Look easy.
Yeah, and it's now coming down to 1.7. And I think all that Francois has to do right now is just keep it on the tarmac. And he should be able to do it. We'll have a look and see where he finds himself making a way around the circuit. He's got a back marker ahead of him, and that's Raymond Duggan. There, Raymond Duggan. There you see Francois, and just ahead of Francois you see Raymond Duggan. 1.4 seconds between Francois Joubert and Raymond Duggan as they work their way around, but they are heading towards the checkered flag.
Look easy pushing very, very hard. There he sees the win right in front of him. It's almost like he's hammering it through the gearbox, but it's all about that man up front. He's done a brilliant job, Francois Joubert. You got to give him the honors. To beat Luc Lucchesi, you got to get up pretty early on any given Sunday morning.
Checkered flag comes out, and Francois Joubert and Luc Lucchesi cross the line, 1.4 seconds behind each other for first and second positions.
Coming through, Jan Sparmers just 10 seconds further back is Jan Sparmers, and I think he'll be pretty chuffed with that. He's got himself an 11-second gap on Peter Joubert up in 4th position. Very, very nice. Well done, Peter Joubert. He's got 18 seconds on the next battle. Ooh, bit of a rough and tumble going on there behind him. Swayze Joubert, the next man, is going to be coming through in the Valvoline car. He's 18 seconds behind Jan Sparmers. There comes Swayze Joubert. Swayze Joubert coming up towards the Ryan. I think he'll be pretty happy with that one. Will Swayze Joubert. Robbie Teens, the next man that's coming through. Frankie, once again, top 8, Robbie Teens.
Yes, the man from Teen Bolt finishes there in that 6th position. Well, not yet. He's got a bit to do as Robbie Teens still works his way around towards a checkered flag that's coming out of Goddard's. And the checkered flag comes out for the man that ends in P6, Robbie Teens. 13 seconds. Excuse me. 13 seconds behind Robbie. In P7 is Gerald Maget.
And you see a little bit further down, Johan Ferree actually got himself past Stephen McCarthy. I don't know how he got that right, but he somehow got past Stephen McCarthy right on the last as well, and managed to pick up yet an additional position. That was pretty decent stuff. So let's have a look at the results of this one. I think it was a pretty good race. Expecting that we were going to have a difficult one, because they did say, and it was predicted, that this Donington Park Grand Prix layout in these iconic DALLARA F3s was not going to be an easy run whatsoever. So the Just Race team, Francois Joubert leading out and winning this one from a very quick, and closing him down towards the end, Luc Lucchesi.
Yeah, only 1.4 seconds between them at the checkered flag. Only 7 cars on the lead lap. Luc Lucchesi and Jan Sparmers rounding off the podium. Then Peter Joubert, Swayze Joubert, Robbie Teens and Gerald Maget. They are the only cars on the lead lap now. I did say, or I said earlier on, Jan Sparmers. I'm going to change my mind. My driver of the day, Gerald Maget.
I was just going to say, you're going to say Gerald Maget.
Yes.
If we could go through the history books, anybody that's got time, go onto the Second Gear Productions on YouTube. You can go and have a look, see at the history of Gerald Maget. I don't believe he's ever been in a 7th position yet, so good
Correct.
result for Gerald. Robbie Teens back there in the game again. It's nice to see him there. Peter and Swayze Joubert, regular basis in the top echelons. Jan Sparmers just getting quicker and quicker. Luc Lucchesi, the only man that could beat him today was in fact Francois Joubert, and he was closing down on a Francois Joubert as well. Timothy Stanton just inside the top 10, but once again inside the top 10. Timothy Stanton more regular than not inside of the top 10.
Yeah, and two big hitters that is not in the top 5. One is Johan Fourie, the other one is Willem Botha, the man that won both races last week, with
Wow, did
Fourie
he
getting a
clean up,
second and
eh?
a fourth
Yeah.
last week.
Well, did Willem Botha clean up last week? The Toyota Gazoo South Africa crew chief back from the Dakar 2022-2023. First time back on the rig. It's like he's been practicing while he's been at the Dakar. He cleaned up race number 1. He cleaned up race number 2. It didn't go as well for him, but he got a good haul of points out of the first event for the season, for season number 8, Western Province Sports and GT Masters. So that 12th will drop him a little bit down, but not all bad. Raymond Duggan, for the first time in a long time, out of the top 10.
Yeah, he did very well last week in the double heats as well, not finding himself where he wants to be this week in P13. So, if Gerald Maget gets my driver of the day, bad luck must certainly go to, I think, the man that was in and out the pits like a yo-yo, Peter van der Spey.
Yeah. Peter van der Spey, he had Johan Fourie go up on the inside of him through turn number 3. I think he was a bit unsighted. I don't think he realized that Johan was there, and I don't think that's not a normal passing position. Like years back, they said to Nigel Mansell, sort of like, where's the best passing positions on the circuit? He says there's very few. When they spoke to Ayrton Senna, he says there's 13 corners, I see 13 opportunities. And I think Johan Fourie said, I don't care where I am on the circuit, I'm going through. And I think Peter wasn't expecting to see him at that stage of the fight. Willem Pina, another man that got tangled up very early and didn't manage to make it through any further, and eventually just dropped out of it after 10 laps and said, too much damage on the car, not going to be able to sort it out. So, folks, in closing, I think man of the match, Francois Joubert, biggest flyer, Luc Lekezi, very consistent, Jan Sparmers, as always, top 5, Peter Joubert, coming through stronger and stronger, Swayze Joubert, Robbie Ting started to get himself back into that top 5, 6, 7 positions. Gerald Maget, probably his best showing ever. Timothy Stanton, once again in the top 10. Johan Fourie, one of few races that he doesn't end up in the top 5. Stephen McCarthy, 10th. I think you would have expected to be about 3 positions further forward. But overall, this Eugene Properties SS Racing entry finds himself 1 lap down after 2 different incidents that affected him. Frankie, a closing word from your side.
Well, 2 Wednesdays, 2 great races.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to whatever next week Wednesday brings.
Yep. So, folks, going forward from the second week in February, we'll have one of the 4 Wednesdays will be MSA IRSA GT3. One Wednesday will be Porsche Cup, which is the overflow of the top 40 in South Africa that did not qualify to go into the GT3 series, and the other 2 weekends, the other 2 Wednesdays interspersed between that. So it'll be 1 week on, 1 week off. We'll carry on with Western Province Sports and GT Masters.
Gary, next week, 1 February, GT3 cars, Monza.
Away. That's going to be something else. From myself, Gary Fleming, on behalf of Second Gear Productions, in conjunction with the voice of West Province Motorsport, Frankie Yernes, thanks very much for joining us. Sorry about the split up, thanks to Eskom trying to have a looking, but because of our backup systems, been able to come back to you and bring you the balance of the race. See you somewhere soon at a racetrack. Good night to you, one and all.
Goodbye, everyone.